Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today, we're discussing the Adeptus Mechanicus' confession to Roboute Guilliman, their lies revealed regarding the Necron threat. A spoiler warning to begin here, as the events we're discussing today are from the Warhammer 40k novel, The Silent King, by author Guy Hayley. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. So, since the very beginning of the Emperor's Crusade across the stars, there has always been two heads of the Aquila, two factions that make up that star-spanning empire. The Imperium and the Mechanicum, the Adeptus Mechanicus as it came to be. Together, the twin worlds of Mars and Terra unified mankind, and together, they have managed to hold it together for 10,000 years. However, it most certainly hasn't been plain sailing, and the Empire has had to navigate more than a few crises along the way. And it is inarguable, the Mechanicus has always had an element of resentment towards the throne world, bubbling beneath the surface. Times when there have been fabricator generals who outright place their own interests over that of the Imperium, and arguably wider humanity. And in fact, the Imperium is facing quite possibly the worst example of that right now, as seen within the Dawn of Fire series finale, The Silent King. Here, a representative of the Fabricator General requested an audience with the Imperial Regent Roboute Guilliman, and it was here the Lord Commander was given the stunning revelation of a war being fought separately by the Mechanicus. A war they had kept hidden, and worse still, it was a war they had been losing. Archmagos Emissarius Lita Unter Sobelfi cowered under the glare of Roboute Guilliman. Her paired servo skulls hovering nervously nearby kept their ocular sensors pointing down, their machine spirits unable to look the Primarch in the face. Guilliman sat in a high throne of white marble upon a dais, reached by 3 steps. A harsh pool of light shone around him. All else was black. The polished stone of the audience chamber was dark as the void beyond the light, and the walls were lost to the gloom. As soon as she had seen this place, she'd recognised it as a room for fury. "This is ill-favoured news," Roboute Guilliman said. He spoke calmly, but he was angry. "You should have informed me years ago. Forgive us, my lord. What I have described to you was the will of Udi Araskian. He is dead. The succession crisis is over. The new Fabricator General believes a clean data slate must be presented to your Imperial Majesty. You are the son of the Omnisire, the flesh and blood of the Machine God. You deserve to know. Please, accept our humblest apologies. Ever has the greed of Mars been a blot on your souls," said Guilliman. "You come to me with this not in the spirit of honesty, but because you are losing a war you have started. I must protest, most holy lord. We did not start it. We were greedy, rapacious even. But the awakening of the Necrons only began at pace with the opening of the Rift." Guilliman leaned back in his throne. The armour of Fate's power pack grated upon the backrest. His seat had to be large because he could not remove the armour. Comfort was an ease denied to him. "If I were to take a less charitable view, I would say you come to me now not out of contrition, but because you have no choice. The balance of power between Terra and Mars is fragile. I could easily say that your people have sought advantage for yourselves by mining this Blackstone and exploiting the xenotech of the Necrons. Mars was never comfortable under the yoke of the Imperium. You know, Roboute has got to wonder sometimes why he even bothers. Here he is, doing everything he can to save humanity, having the pressure for the galaxy's survival squarely on his shoulders, and all he keeps getting is more and more headaches. Headaches from the very people he is trying to save. Everything Guilliman says here is absolutely bang on. This isn't the Mechanicus coming to him because they want to be honest. This is the Mechanicus coming to him because they are desperate. I mean, do we really think there'd be a representative of the Fabricator General here confessing if they didn't need the Imperium's help? Of course not. Not in a million years. And Guilliman knows that. Honestly, if it's not proven by that pathetic insincere apology, you deserve to know. Please, accept our humblest apologies. Then it's proven by the attempt to cast the blame solely on the former Fabricator General Raskian. Oh, it's not our fault. It was his. But he's gone now, and we're just trying to be honest. Come on. Guilliman is not going to fall for that. And maybe even if that was true, the new Fabricator General themselves should be there, telling Guilliman what has gone on, why, but how they are here in person, accepting responsibility for it as the new Fabricator General, proving their sincerity to the Primarch. But they aren't. They sent a simple Magos to face the Primarch instead, to confess everything. And that tells me everything I need to know. And I'm willing to bet Guilliman as well. This is no action of honesty, but one of self-preservation. Again nailed by Roboute. If I were to take a less charitable view, I would say that you come to me now, not out of contrition, but because you have no choice. Exactly. And on a side note, confirmation finally for certain that Raskian is indeed dead. Long believed and expected to have met his fate within the webway. However, now we have it confirmed that the Mechanicus has moved on. Although it's had annoying, I admit that we haven't had a name for the new Fabricator General yet. But at least we now know for sure. However, the uncomfortable meeting for the Magos would continue. My lord, please. 10,000 years have passed since the days of the Mechanicum. You yourself strengthened the bonds between our worlds, and brought the people of Mars and her fiefdoms fully under the benevolent protection of the Imperium. She looked up at him pleadingly. Her eyes were false, dark glass, their tubular plasteel mounts protruding unpleasantly. Metal anchors sunk deep into the bone of her cheeks and forehead held them in place. Her lower face was covered by a jutting metal mandible. The little skin between the eyes and mouth was sallow, dry-looking, bunched up around her augmetics. Electus glowed on her bald scalp in the shadows of her hood. Her robes were deep red, the holy colour of Mars, mother of all Forge Worlds, and suzerain of the dominions of the Adeptus Mechanicus. 10,000 years where you have been trying to reassert your independence, as I understand it, said Guilliman. That is not true, my lord. Terra and Mars together is the Imperium of Man, two heads of the Aquila, under the rule of the Omnissiah, who is the representative of the machine god clothed in flesh. I see, said Guilliman, and his voice was cold. If that really is so, why was this information kept from me? I cannot say, my lord, so Belfi said. There have been great changes on Mars since the disappearance of Udia Raskian. The previous Fabricator General was in office for centuries. So you blame your master's predecessor for this disaster. With all respect, my lord, what else should I do? It is the truth. We have come to you directly. You waited years, he repeated, and leaned forward. Years. Years of research, of collation, of cross-checking, trillions of data points from our Aquatorius conclaves, explorators and techno-archaeologists, consolidated and interpreted by the finest data predators in the Imperium. Only when we understood what we faced could we give you correct data. It is irrefutable. The Necrons are awakening everywhere. Guilliman stared down at her, eyes hard. Let me frame this picture my way, he said. Mars has deliberately downplayed a major threat to the Imperium, thinking to seize the sciences of the Necron foe for their own benefit. In doing so, you have undoubtedly sped their awakening, whether or not you are ultimately responsible for it. Your forces are outmatched, your domains are under threat. Only now, at the 11th hour, do you reveal the magnitude of what the Imperium faces because of your actions. You've got to laugh at the irony here. The Magos attempting to deny the Mechanicus' desire to gain power apart from Terra, apart from the Imperium, by claiming they are one and the same, together the Imperium of mankind. All in a meeting where she's having to admit they're losing a secret war that they've been hiding from the Imperium for years. It's hilarious, really. The only excuse to just keep blaming Raskian, who obviously can't defend or refute the claims himself. And as we see here, Guilliman really drills down to the magnitude of the Mechanicus' actions. Mars has deliberately downplayed a major threat to the Imperium, thinking to seize the sciences of the Necron foe for their own benefit. In doing so, you have undoubtedly sped their awakening, whether or not you are ultimately responsible for it. Your forces are outmatched. Your domains are under threat. Only now, at the 11th hour, do you reveal the magnitude of what the Imperium faces because of your actions. It's not just the lie, it's the severity of it. The magnitude, as Guilliman said. They haven't just hid a threat. They have denied the existence of a power that could actually defeat humanity, playing the Necrons down as a minuscule, isolated issue, when they have known for years that the Necrons are a galactic empire of immense power. And the situation was only getting worse. And worse still, as Guilliman states, they could very well be responsible for the Necrons' increased awakening. And the truth is, they most likely are. All due to their greed, their lust for Necron Blackstone, their desire for power. How many individuals undone by the blight of greed throughout humanity's history? Far, far too many. Now, could Guilliman have done something about this far sooner had he known? Could he have formulated a plan to counter the growing Necron problem? Who knows? But it's surely a fact the Imperium would have been in a better position than it is now, had he been told. I don't know how much he could have realistically done, given the plight of the Imperium and fight against the ruinous powers. But the mere notion of Guilliman knowing the Necrons were equal to chaos would have surely made a difference. Made a huge factor into his plans. seen the Indomitus Crusade play out in a very different way. And I think Guilliman knows it himself, with his anger and disgust being palpable, contained as ever beneath his regal bearing, when in truth he'd probably like nothing better than to wipe the rulership of the Mechanicus out and simply take control for himself. And actually, as crazy a notion as that may be, Guilliman may well class this as enough is enough. See this as the last straw, as in his final remarks to dismiss the Magos, he makes it clear, as an Adeptus, the Mechanicus does in fact answer to him. The situation is complicated, Lord. It seems simple enough to me. Guilliman looked aside for a moment, his expression angry, yet thoughtful. I thank you for your news, he said. I will consider it, and formulate a course of action in due course. Sobulfi lifted her head. What might I tell my masters? That we have spoken, and that I am displeased. Go from my presence. I shall return to Mars. You shall not. You shall stay here for the time being. I am expected back. I am the Imperial Regent of the Imperium of Man. The Adeptus Mechanicus is an Adeptus of the Imperium, and therefore beholden to my command. And I command you to stay. I will give you my judgment soon. In the meantime, transfer all data you possess on the Necrons to my staff. It shall be done, my lord. Do it immediately, he said. Now go. I absolutely love this Guilliman. The Guilliman who has had enough of being nice and just makes his authority known. Because again, come on. It's ridiculous how much this man is having to put up with. The constant issues and problems with his own people, who are putting him in a no-win situation, complaining about him taking control, when it's clear he needs to. With every passing week in the Imperium, it becomes clearer and clearer. Guilliman is its only hope. And again, you can just feel the ire radiating off him, telling the Magos to just get out of his presence, shutting down the attempts of scurrying back off to Mars, dropping the problem in his lap and then running away. Guilliman concretely letting the Magos know he is in charge, even over the Mechanicus, which is an interesting point in itself, truth be told, because a lot is always made of Mars's sovereignty, its independence. Yet Guilliman spells it out clearly here. It is absolutely beholden to him as Imperial Regent, which really does make us need to think and look at the Mechanicus a little differently as we move forward, opening up the never really thought of possibility of Roboute reining them in, adding some much needed supervision. It wouldn't go down well, absolutely not, but truly what other choice does he really have here? We really need to see him speaking with the new Fabricator General in person. See how that conversation goes down. If they front up to the Mechanicus' flaws, or continue to pass the buck. Considering the Fabricator General wasn't here, call me a pessimist, but I think we know there'd be more casting the blame away. However, Guilliman does at least force the Magos to reveal all of this news to the assembled fleet leadership later. So a little punishment at least, facing the resulting uproar. However, so it was. The Lord Commander and Imperial Regent was informed of the Necron threat. And so it was. he was put on the road to facing the Silent King. An equally intriguing encounter in its own right, which we'll discuss next time. But as always everyone, what do you think? What do you think of Guilliman's reaction to hearing the news? Is he amazingly restrained for what is an absolute betrayal and catastrophe? Or is he right to not take it out on the Magos, when it's her superiors who are the real problem? Do you think Guilliman's surprised by the revelation of the Mechanicus working for themselves? Or do you think it's more the sheer scope of their lies that shocks him more so? And do you think Guilliman could have done more had he known earlier? Do you think he could have altered the Indomitus Crusades? Or did they have their hands full with the ruinous powers? How much of the Necron threat could have been stopped? Or was it always going to build to a confrontation with the Silent King? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.